Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking what is basically a geopolitical thriller, but it's cleverly disguised as a simple business rivalry. Seriously, every single time you head to an airport, you are stepping right onto the front lines of a massive conflict that has completely reshaped modern history. We're talking, of course, about the epic, decades-long battle between Boeing and Airbus. Two airplanes, two logos, one sky. But behind every single flight you've ever taken, there hides one of the most ruthless corporate wars imaginable. This is a war fought not with tanks or missiles, no, it's fought with lobbyists, complex trade agreements, brilliant engineers, and massive subsidies. The stakes are literally impossibly high, and the collateral damage has, tragically, included human lives.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that the hidden truth of this rivalry, it isn't just a battle for customers. It's a battle for nations. Because when airlines buy aircraft, they aren't simply just buying transportation. They are choosing economic alliances. They're securing domestic jobs, and they're gaining military leverage, technological prestige, and ultimately, global power.
Section 1. When America Ruled the Skies. Let's step back into the 1960s, a time when American engineering completely dominated commercial flight.
To really understand how we got here, you have to look at the 1960s. America basically owned aviation, right? Its manufacturers dominated every major airline across the globe. At the very top of that pyramid sat Boeing, the absolute, undisputed king of commercial flight. Back then, airlines didn't ask whether they were going to buy a Boeing. They just asked which Boeing they were going to buy. But over in Europe, they were watching this dominance with growing, profound terror. Because every Boeing sold meant thousands of American jobs, American influence, and billions of dollars flowing straight out of European economies. European leaders suddenly realized that if they did nothing, their entire aerospace industry was going to vanish completely.
Which brings us to Section 2. Europe builds a rival.
That sheer terror led to an absolutely unprecedented collaboration. France joined in, Germany joined, Spain joined, Britain joined. We're talking about different languages, different governments, completely different priorities, but they all shared one single, frankly absurd-sounding mission: defeat Boeing. The result? Airbus. And at the time, experts actually laughed. Seriously, how could a messy, multinational partnership possibly take down an experienced American giant? But Europe didn't just throw a little pocket change at this. They poured billions, staggering amounts of government money into Airbus. Why? Because they knew this wasn't just a business venture. This was a massive strategic investment in European independence, driving innovation to make absolutely sure they wouldn't be left behind.
So the battlefield quickly shifted from the factories directly into the halls of politics. The United States fiercely accused Europe of illegally subsidizing Airbus with all those government funds. But Europe, they immediately fired right back, claiming America was artificially supporting Boeing through super lucrative military contracts and government programs. Both sides claimed total innocence. Both sides loudly accused the other of cheating. The aviation war had officially become a global economic war. Entire governments were literally stepping into the arena to defend their national champions, and absolutely neither side was willing to lose their technological leadership.
All right, Section 3, the engineering arms race. Let's take this fight from the politicians straight up into the skies. Because this intense friction unleashed a massive, massive wave of engineering innovation. And this brilliantly illustrates the completely different paths they took. Airbus leaned heavily into the future by introducing fly-by-wire systems on a massive scale. They were relying on computers to assist pilots and really pushing automation in the cockpit. Boeing, on the other hand, responded fiercely with major aerodynamic breakthroughs. They focused hard on fuel savings, efficiency improvements, and using advanced lightweight materials. Every single percentage improvement mattered here. 1% less fuel consumption, that saved airlines millions of dollars. The entire sky basically became a giant lavatory. And you know who the ultimate winners were? The passengers. We got quieter, safer, and much more comfortable flights out of it.
But selling an airplane was no longer just a standard transaction. Winning over airlines became an absolute obsession. An order for 300 aircraft wasn't just a sale, it was a major statement. Manufacturers fought tooth and nail, utilizing this complex mix of steep discounts, comprehensive training packages, long-term maintenance programs, and, of course, behind-the-scenes political influence. It's like corporate chess played with billion-dollar pieces, where a single contract could shift global momentum for years.
Moving to Section 4, size versus efficiency. Here's where the two titans fiercely disagreed on the entire future of global travel.
Airbus placed a massive, audacious bet on a symbol of pure ambition:
The A380. This was the largest passenger aircraft ever built. It had 2 full passenger decks. It was literally a flying city. Airbus fundamentally believed the future belonged to giant hub airports, moving huge masses of people on fewer flights. Boeing, however, answered with a completely different philosophy. They favored efficiency over sheer size, focusing on smaller, more nimble aircraft capable of long-range, point-to-point travel right between smaller cities. They bet that passengers actually wanted flexible, direct routes instead of transferring through massive, crowded hubs.
Now, the A380 was an engineering marvel. The whole world watched in amazement, and passengers absolutely adored it. But markets, as we know, do not reward mere beauty, they reward stark economics. Airlines eventually turned their backs on the flying city, preferring the incredible efficiency of Boeing's direct routing model. It taught the whole industry a heavy, heavy lesson. The best machine does not always win. The machine that fits the market wins.
Section 5. When speed becomes dangerous. Because this relentless drive to conquer the market, it has a very real, very dark side.
I really want you to think about this question. What actually happens when intense financial incentives collide directly with operational risk? Think about it. Because while competition absolutely creates brilliant innovation, it also creates immense, crushing pressure. Let's move to and see how this builds into the actual anatomy of a safety crisis. The race to satisfy airlines accelerated so fast, this immense pressure led to desperately tightened development timelines. Deadlines created a severe temptation to take shortcuts, and shortcuts in the aviation industry create unimaginable disasters. This fatal cascade of market demands meant that expectations outpaced reality, leading to devastating crises that cost hundreds of human lives and sparked global investigations that rocked the very foundation of the industry.
This forced a deeply painful reckoning in boardrooms around the world, because trust is aviation's most valuable currency. Passengers might not know exactly how an aerodynamic wing works, but they absolutely understand trust. Airlines, regulators, investors, they all operate on trust. And because the stakes in this industry are measured in human lives, losing that trust instantly devastates a company's global reputation. It takes decades to build and literally only seconds to completely destroy.
Section 6. The next aviation battlefield. Now, despite these incredibly heavy lessons, the war never stops. In fact, today it's shifting into entirely new frontiers. The combat zones of tomorrow are centered around sustainability and radical carbon reduction. These two giants are fighting over alternative fuels, the integration of artificial intelligence, advanced automation, and the incredibly complex puzzle of hydrogen propulsion. The next victor in this duopoly won't just be the one who builds a better airplane. They might just be the one who completely redefines what an airplane even is.
But honestly, perhaps the most fascinating part of this entire rivalry is this. Neither side can truly win. It's a completely symbiotic relationship. If one of these giants were to just completely disappear, the competition would vanish, innovation would slow down, progress would weaken, and the entire industry, and us, as passengers, we would all lose. The world above the clouds is delicately balanced on this continuous billion-dollar rivalry.
So the next time you board a flight, take a second to look at the logo near the door. You aren't just looking at a brand, you're looking at the culmination of a decades-long, hidden geopolitical war. A war fought in factories and diplomatic meetings, shaping global trade every single time landing gear lifts off a runway. And right now, inside two headquarters thousands of miles apart, engineers are already drafting the plans for tomorrow's fight. Because in this industry, the sky is not the limit, it is the battlefield. So, whose side are you flying on next?